So, do you think it's too late to start YouTube in 2026, especially if you're in the 45 plus crowd? Well, what if I said to you that your age is actually not a liability, but a huge asset? It could actually be a secret weapon. Let's just call it that. See, there's a lot of people on YouTube that are craving authenticity right now. They are craving things that are real because of all of the AI slop that is out there. There's also a lot of people who are younger who want to learn life lessons, who want to get real life practical experience, but maybe don't have the guidance to give that to them. And yes, I am making this video today for the 45 plus crowd. However, just understand, you don't have to be 45 plus to watch this, because I truly believe that people do get ideas from listening to areas that maybe don't apply to them. Often, I get motivation from unlikely places like gamers and fashionistas. I am totally not a fashionista. So, in the spirit of 2026, I am going to introduce 26 niches that give you an unfair advantage if you are 45 plus. Let's say even 50 plus here. So where does this come from? Well, we often hear that, content creation is a young person's game. Yes, I agree, because it was started, basically 15 years ago with the creation of YouTube, with the creation of places like MySpace, etc. I agree. I might be on the end of that introduction period. I may have been already in the work world at that time. However, fast forward to today, to 2026, and now someone like me, who is now 50, 51 in my case, we're just starting to enter content creation because we're starting to explore, let's call it the second phase or the beginnings of our retirement era. So much like Miss T Swift, she has her Eras Tour. So do we as people entering the second phase of life, or third phase, or fourth phase. I'm not sure. Anyway, we are entering our retirement era. And many of us really don't want to just stop and roll over and die. We feel that we have a lot more to give. And we are looking for the next phase, the next adventure in our story. Now, before I jump into all of the different niches, let's explore all the reasons why someone my age or a little older may be hesitant in starting content creation because, it is a young person's thing. And yes, I talked about this in the video about fear and overwhelm and people being afraid to start, but really it does matter in the fact that it really does limit people and put that fear of not starting into their mind because they can't get over a few things. And the fear of tech, the fear of software, fear of editing, gear, all of that is one of the biggest kind of hesitations. People don't know where to start. And yes, there is, start with your phone. Absolutely start with your phone. But my favorite equipment is literally point and shoot. You can open it up out of the box, and that is the DJI Pocket Osmo 3. Now, I hear that there's an Osmo 4 just about to launch, but literally this is a point and shoot kind of option. And there are other cameras that shoot 4K that are micro and mini and aren't invasive. I think some of that is also, we're afraid of looking silly in front of the camera, etc. as well. So something that's small like this is very inintrusive. It's something we can put in a pocket, put in our purse. But yeah, when we do get to the point where we are finally ready to start this thing, there can be this overwhelm of excitement. You really just want to jump in and you just want to start. Then this fear kicks in of, am I going to look silly? Am I going to be able to do this? How do I start? Where do I go? What do I even talk about? What do I make videos on? Etc. And then you also get the statistics. I mean, YouTube's full of videos that have statistics, 96% of people on YouTube never put out a video, leaving 4% that actually do. That is a true statistic. And of that 4%, usually there's very few who actually continue on to become big creators. Often that 4% group puts out 1 or 2 videos and calls it quits at that moment in time. And a lot of people fear, myself, I was absolutely in this boat as well, that, the big golden era of YouTube was 2020. And if you didn't start then, you're too late. And you hear the statistics of, 20 million videos being put out every single day on YouTube. And what's the chances of yours being one of them that takes off or is even seen? Saturation fear is for real. And let's just say I'm going through this ego crush myself right now. I mean, I've put out 6 videos. I know that's a drop in the bucket, but it hurts to only get 3 to 4 views, especially when you've invested time into creating them. You've invested time to editing them. You've invested time researching them. You've invested money into buying equipment even. So really, I had to look at this and say, I need to get rid of the viral thoughts of me going viral and start looking more at the failures. What makes it that people fail at YouTube? And when I started looking at the real reasons that people fail on YouTube, it is simply that they just give up. And a lot of the people who do give up are younger people. They try it, they realize it's not for them. They try it, they don't have instant gratification, and they move on. But see, that's a unique advantage for us who are 45 plus. See, you got to remember, we were born in the era where instant gratification wasn't a thing. We had to wait for every new episode coming out on Disney Sundays. There was no, I'm going to go into the app and watch whatever movie or show I want to watch today. There was no flicking a screen and moving on to the next video if we didn't like the content, or we didn't like the clothes the person was wearing, or we didn't like the topic, whatever the case may be. We had to sit there and literally suck it up. And I think that's the beauty of this age, is that because we learn, suck it up, we can suck it up when we feel shitty about having a video that only gets 3 views after you worked on it for, a couple weeks. And now with the power of AI to make it easier, and the wealth of knowledge that comes with our learned life experiences, our personal life experiences, plus the fact that at this age, we can be a little bit more authentic. We don't have to be so buttoned up and polished and caring what people say and think about us. It does give us an unfair advantage because we have way more things or niches that we can talk about. And if you call it a niche, I'm going to say you're wrong. It's a niche. It's a niche, okay? I'm going with niche. So on that, let's jump into 26 niches that you could try in 2026 as a person who is 45 plus, because you have a unique experience to share. Now, please also understand, this is not all of them. I'm just using 26 to be playful with 26. There are so many more niches that you can try out there. I would implore you to put it in the comments below. And hey, if you like this as well, you might as well subscribe while you're there. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can always unsubscribe later, just saying. But let's jump in with, just the everyday kind of person, the person who, whether it's location or logistics, let's call that our first kind of drop zone for this niches. And if you are a realtor, if you are a financial advisor, if you are a mortgage broker, and you aren't already doing this niche, you're absolutely crazy. But this can be done by everyone. There is the local, let's call it historian, or the local ambassador. You can introduce everything about your local community, the history of the area. You can talk about different builders who have built along the way. You can talk about who settled in that area. You can talk about different businesses. You can talk about all of the demographics that can be found there. You can talk about the schools. You can talk about the local government. There's so much you can do as a community advocate. Now, this is another one that I wish I would have had resources to when my kids were younger. And that is the sports parent or the dance parent. You have the unique experience of guiding people through the sport that your children excelled in, teaching people how you would prepare for tournaments or prepare for recitals and staying weekends away and how you would plan for meals and snacks, all of those types of things. That would do extremely well because there's so many new parents who are joining that group every single year. And that's something that doesn't have to be local. But if it is local, you never know. Teams might actually push it out for you. Then there is the cheap vacation or the staycation guides. These are people who are adventurers around their local area, or let's call it about 3 to 5 hours surrounding. They like to teach people on different ways to vacation because there's so many people who are struggling financially and still want family fun. So this is another great way of being able to kind of introduce people to the vacation experience. Then there are some very unique ones specific to our age. I'm going to kind of rhyme these out because I know that this could get pretty long. So there is the Chapter 2 retiree, the person who guides newly retired people through what to expect into retirement. You can talk about what you did about introducing, pensions and retirement income, and then kind of what to do during early retirement, etc. There's also the sandwich generation, the ones who are taking care of both parents and children at the exact same time. Very unique experience that a lot of people would get a lot of good information from. Then there's the empty nest renovator, the person whose kids have left home. The memories are now memories, and it's time to revamp the house, to redecorate. There's always room for people to watch this type of thing. They love it, I'll be honest. And then there is the Silver Solo Guide, whether that is through divorce, whether that is somebody who opted to never get married. There is also the death experience. There's also the dating at, a certain age, the dating after 50, etc. Any of those Silver Solo experiences would do really, really well. Now, for the people similar to me who perhaps has a little bit of a hard time leaving behind their corporate identity, you can use your corporate identity to create a channel that helps others, who guides younger people through the corporate ladder. Kind of like the Corporate Whisperer, where you're teaching kind of the Gen Zs how to behave or how to network, how to kind of fit in the corporate culture. Now, this person specifically targets the people who perhaps haven't saved enough money for retirement, and it's trying to kind of put that on overdrive now for them. And then there's also the tech translator, the person who has the patience of a monk, who can work with those who are 75 plus, who do not understand tech, who are vulnerable for scams, who are vulnerable to fall for the AI slop that's out there. Teaching those seniors how to remain safe online would be a huge channel. I mean, so many seniors don't want to go to programs. They feel embarrassed that they just don't know this. So having somebody online that they could watch privately would be a huge channel. Then there's niche historians, like somebody who loves vinyl records, somebody who loves some of the older music. This could be also collectibles. It could be, different comic toys or comic books, different kinds of cards, anything collectible, basically. If you have a certain area that you specialize in, this could be something that takes off huge because people want to feel as they are part of a community. And if you are a community advocate, that looks like them. They're just going to feel very welcome. Then there is the exit strategy scout. So this is kind of, let's call it like Cody Sanchez talks about the opportunity of buying, but maybe you are the person who coordinates or tries to help some of the aging baby boomers sell off their businesses, sell off a franchise. And also on the franchise side of things, maybe there's a franchise scout that talks about small franchise opportunities that the people who are going into the second act part of our lives, maybe we want to buy. So think like ice cream shop or sandwich shop or something like that. But yeah, there could be the person who introduces different franchises to the aging community then. Now, we can't forget one of the biggest niches in the world, and that is health and body. But let's look at it as a different perspective here. So maybe there is a mobility mentor, somebody who helps introduce mobility exercises to those who are 75 plus or 80 plus, or how to find shoes for the person who is 80 plus and maybe 80 and diabetic. They're not necessarily looking for abs. They're looking just to get around safely at this point. Then there is the anti-aging chefs. So these are people who talk about nutrition, who talk about food for longevity, that talk about food for optimal health and helping with preventing Alzheimer's or dementia, etc. And then there are also the people like myself, the sober curious. Maybe you have a sober story you want to share. And like myself, I was sober curious 5 years ago, and I'm coming up on 4 years without a stitch of alcohol. And one of the things that I loved during that time, that early sobriety, was looking at recovery stories and seeing the people who were like me. And I didn't consider myself a low bottom drinker at that time. I was very much what you would deem as a wine mum at that point. I just didn't like who I was at that point. I didn't like that I was drinking as much as I was comfortable with. So I did end up becoming completely sober, giving it completely up. And whether you are helping the person like me, or perhaps talking about the person who has hit rock bottom, there's always someone out there that could use the guidance of somebody who is willing to talk about it out there. And I know that this one is a huge, huge niche that's out there. There is the mom or dad fix-it group. There are so many young people out there who were never taught life skills. And when they go into college or university, they do not have the necessary skills to kind of thrive. And I know it might sound ridiculous to those who aren't there, but there's many, many kids who have no idea about meal prep, have no idea how to do proper grocery shopping. There's many people who have no idea how to patch a hole in the wall in the drywall. There's many people who don't know how to do an oil change on a car or even change a car tire. This is a niche that so many people would do really, really well. Whether you were just teaching basic domestic things or car or how to fix something, etc. Because there's so many people out there that didn't grow up with a mom or a dad in the household, or maybe mom had to have 3 jobs to put food on the table. And maybe dad was, not home because he was busy, overseas or something like that, serving in the military. So there's a lot of young people who don't have the life skills that a parent who is active in with them would have. And they do source YouTube to kind of fill that gap. And on that, there is also the soft skills mentor. I know that was hard for me to say, but basically this is the person who teaches basic manners. It can teach networking. It can teach, basic human communications. This, believe it or not, is a group that, if you think of somebody who was maybe incarcerated at a very young age, and now they've served their time and they're entering into a world that they don't recognize, that they didn't get any kind of life skills in. Having basic kind of introduction to manners and, understanding how society works today and just networking and talking to people and how to apply for jobs, etc. This one would be a huge benefit to so many people. And since I'm talking so much on mom and dad and, the whole thing about that, there is also genealogy historians out there as well. They love looking at those Ancestry and Me videos. They like digging into kind of their own genealogy. There's so many people who would be interested in doing a family tree, but have no idea where to start. Or there could be even the people who perhaps, were adopted and now are just starting to find out a little bit of their past. They would love to be able to know how to put something like this together, to discover their background, to find out who they are and where they came from. And if you're into history, there's also the educated thrifter. The person who understands everything about, say, silver or, say, teak wood or a specific type of furniture or a genre of fashion, etc. Passing on that information would be great. There's so many people out there who love the idea of thrifting, but really don't understand what is quality versus what is junk. And somebody who understands that, you would do really, really well on YouTube. And then there are legacy writers, the people who print up the cookbooks, that recipes from the 1800s that have been passed down in their family, little secrets like using salt to clean out your cast iron instead of using soap and water. Teaching people how to document legacies and create kind of books out of their own family recipes and so on. That is something that, if you have the skills to show people how to make a book, how to make a family cookbook, how to make a family history book, that would be amazing for people to be able to teach how to do that. Now, on the lifestyles of the rich and famous, or maybe not so rich and famous, but there is the solo traveler. So whether you are male or female, I will say on the female front, being a solo female traveler, being able to learn from another solo female traveler is a huge asset because they understand the underlying fears. Maybe men have the same types of fears as well, but I know women, we tend to talk about it. So we express our feelings instead of, having it come out in irrational bouts of anger. Anyway, another topic for another day. But basically the solo traveler experience, how to pack for it, how to plan for it, what to expect in airports and on planes and trains and automobiles, all of that. And the glamping/RV reviewers. There's a lot of people who are looking at glamping, whether that's a trailer experience, whether that's buying into a trailer park, whether that is buying into a community or timeshare or buying the biggest, baddest $2 million RV out there. I know that there is a huge luxury market for the people who have, the bad backs and the bad knees, but still want to get out there and enjoy their retirement. So any of those experiences always do well, especially, again, if you can relate to someone who looks like you. Now, very similar, but buying a vacation property. So whether that is buying a cottage and having to teach somebody how you maintain, maybe it's a 3-season cottage. How do you winterize it? What about the whole cottage buying experience for you in your area? This also could be like, how do you prepare, to store toys, and meaning like, the ATVs, the Sea-Doos, the boats, that type of thing. That could be something that, someone local could do if you are not necessarily in the downtown city. But then there's also things like, I mentioned it earlier, buying into a timeshare. I have no idea what a timeshare is. To me, it sounds scary, but if you are a timeshare expert, that's a great channel to introduce. There's also buying into kind of trailer park communities. I know many Canadians who have bought into American trailer parks, etc. I would have no idea as a Canadian how to do that and what to expect. That would be another unique experience. And again, there is also the people who buy in other countries. Me as a Canadian, I would love to be able to buy a property in Mexico, to be able to purchase something that I could go and visit on a regular basis, maybe even spend, half the year there. And I say Mexico, but it could be anywhere in the world, not just Mexico. I just love you, Mexico. Just understand that. And we're almost there now. So number 25, that's the modern grandparent, the person who teaches people how to connect with their, grandchildren on social media, the proper etiquette on how to behave on social media, what kind of apps are good, what kind of apps you want to avoid, and things that you can say and do and how to kind of even just use the platform. This is also perhaps introducing them to shows that the young people might be watching and so on. So there's a whole bunch of things when it comes to being the modern grandparent that, allows you to connect and develop a relationship with the younger generation. Now, the last one here on the list I'm going to say is kind of touching to me. It is, the pet parent for seniors, or how to be a senior pet parent. This is the person who perhaps introduces the 65 plus, the people who have started retirement and they want to become pet parents at this point, or they're willing to take on adoption of another pet at this point. What breeds to consider for dogs or cats that work well in an apartment, what not to consider, things like birds, a parrot, taking on a parrot when you are like 65 years old. Huge mistake because they're going to significantly outlive you. So this gives kind of people the insights on what to expect being a pet parent as a senior and how to take care of then senior dogs as they grow with you, etc., or cats. And they might also talk about like legacy planning, because this shouldn't be a discussion that somebody just chooses to do if that animal might potentially outlive them. That's not fair to the animal, and it's not fair to whomever has to take on the responsibility after that. So becoming kind of the pet guardian for seniors is something that I think is so important. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen anyone doing this. So with the aging population, I think it would be really worthwhile to explore this one if you are a pet expert. Well, there you go. I've gave you 26 ideas to turn your wrinkles into revenue. It funds your vacation, etc. if your YouTube channel ends up getting monetized. And if you have been around for the last little while on my channel and my new podcast here, you will know that I kind of give homework at the very end of these videos. And today I'm just going to lump it all into one. If you have not started YouTube at this point, but you might think you want to, I'm going to challenge you to record, a 60-second video, a 1-minute video on your phone today about a niche that you might be interested in. I'm also going to implore you to write down a few different niches that might interest you. Use AI to research yourself personally. Figure out a niche that would work for you. Ask AI to search in your area based on your age, based on your life experience. What would be some niches that would work on YouTube for you? And bonus points if you ask it then when you find a niche you're interested in, can you give me 52 video ideas that come out of that niche? You have a year of content ready for you, ready to go, just with that few little prompts. And as you see, I use AI because I want to make things easier for myself. I have a full-time career. I do this part-time. Time is a commodity to me. So next week's video is going to be on my lazy scripting model, how I use AI to do the heavy lifting, and how I outline my personal videos so that I can make it easy for myself. And where I don't sound robotic and I sound like myself. Like, if you met me in person, actually, I think the camera makes you a little duller usually. I will say, if you met me in person, you would think I'm very animated. I often get told I have a lot of energy. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. But anyway, that being said, I'm going to talk about scripting next week and specifically how to make that easier for yourself. So with that, thank you for joining me here in the lab today. Just understand I love you and I hope you have a wonderful week and I will see you soon.